right, good morning. Take your first inhale, intentional inhale, softly placing your tongue at the roof of your palate, softening the jawline and sealing your lips. And begin to take in some air from your nose and fill your chest and abdomen, relaxing the shoulders, widening the shoulders, but gently tucking the rib cage. Giving your spine and neck a little bit more length. Visually imagining if there was a fishing string attached to the last bone before your skull begins in your neck. Imagine somebody was holding you up as if you were a puppet, and that was the space that you were being held up by, rather than your skull or the center of your head or your crown. Now what that does is that helps your chin tilt a little bit forward, but it also allows your spine to get some space between your little bones there. Just feel that for a second, and then just relax into it. Imagine you were being held. You were being held up. Just breathe into that space. We tend to collapse into that space more often than not. And inhale softly. And then softly exhale. Filling up again, introducing abundance for the day with abundant breath and a generous inhale. And softly exhaling. On your exhale, take a moment to tighten your core, hollow out the rib cage, allow anything that might be lingering, like that morning dust, to exit your body. And when you get to the bottom of that breath, just hold there for a moment. Feel what empty feels like. Notice if your shoulders curled forward. And gently tilt them back, widening them rather than tilting entirely back. Widen those shoulders. And visualizing that string again, that puppet string. Notice how much space is available to you when your upper body is positioned accurately, pay attention to the flow, the permission for emotional access, and the support that you have available to you when your body is positioned right. We're going to work on the lower part of our body now as well. So you have really two options here. You can either sit with your legs folded, right? Cross-legged, meditation. Or if you're sitting on a chair and you'd like to place both of your feet on the ground, what we're trying to find is balance and symmetry. Throughout the day, we will usually lean towards one hip or the other, crossing one leg, or just sitting, leaning on one arm, and that will allow our legs to kind of also bend in one direction rather than sitting straight. A lot of times when we aren't sitting straight, it also can affect the way we feel. Emotionally, we could be leaning towards one side versus another. Or like a twist, like in a sponge, when we talk about like twists when we do some stretching. In the ring and rinse, we find ways to limit access to the flow unintentionally, but what that does is it restricts our emotional capacity. And the thing we say to ourselves is, I'm afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of letting anyone in. But the thing that we don't realize is that it's so much easier to get hurt when you're in a twist. When you have complete access to your flow and you've built that emotional muscle, and you've worked on the effortlessness, right? As we talked about yesterday, effortlessness is just as important as effort, right? It's just as valuable. Releasing the tension, releasing the flex, removing those flexed muscles or those twists physically in our body can help us build some of those emotional muscles that we need, which is complete flow. A really simple example is If you think about a home, right? Our body is a home. Especially now in summer, if you don't open the windows throughout the day, the air in the house will begin to get stuffy. Sometimes smell. No matter how clean, because a house needs to breathe. Where we struggle is sometimes if you wake up in the morning and you begin walking around your house, you won't notice how the windows need to be opened until you've left and came back. With our bodies, we don't leave our bodies. The only time we do leave our bodies is at night, right? We're 60% dead. Wake up in the morning and it gives us a new perspective, a fresh perspective. By meditating in the morning, you're able to really open those windows by breathing through the space, your internal space, accurately with the right posture. You have a higher chance of clean airflow and emotional flow throughout the day. Because no matter how beautiful a space looks, if it smells or if it's stuffy, it's uncomfortable. And then we begin to improvise. So with our bodies, when we struggle with flow, with emotional transparency, we will begin to compromise it and improvise. And that's where we begin to twist. We don't sit straight. We don't breathe in fully. By placing the tongue at the roof of your mouth, just pay attention to your eyebrows, how they lift, how much softer your eyeballs feel, even in this meditation, your cheekbones, your jawline. How's that puppet string going? And the shoulders, widen the shoulder. One thing good posture does give you, and symmetry gives you, is less chance of accidents, right? It's harder to fall over if you do have a sense of balance in your body. But because so many of us have not worked on flow, and myself included here, when we don't work on balance, right? Balance is something, it's not an end game. It's this constant realignment, right? So every single day, it's a realignment. Some days need more, some days need less, right? So yesterday when we were going through some poses, we did some really simple stretches. And what I mentioned was that it might not feel like much, but just because it doesn't feel like much doesn't mean it doesn't have the same impact. So by removing the tension and really recreating balance every single day with our posture, we have a higher chance of performing as our best self and a lower chance of getting hurt. So when we think about vulnerability, technically you are more vulnerable if you're not sitting accurately, or you're not standing properly. With emotions, the more closed you are, the more susceptible you are to hurt, or the hurt getting trapped, which is really the opposite of what we believe. So to retrain and rewire our brains here, you have the best perception when your body is fully balanced, or as close to balance as possible. When you have a fear of getting hurt, something in your body, your physical body, begins to move, because your physical body is a mirror to your soul, to your emotions, right? Your body will react depending on the comfort or discomfort. You can tell a lot about somebody, or you can tell everything about somebody by the way their body moves. So if you're unsure about a feeling, the beauty is that you can work on the flow or openness, not only through therapy or conversation, but also just by movement, stretching, meditating, and relaxing into the posture accurately. That's why yoga is so powerful, because some emotions you can only get to through physical movement. Because like the windows, opening the windows, you won't notice until you've aired out. And with yoga, by stretching that deep muscle tissue, widening your arms, lifting them, looking, breathing, folding over, and coming up again, sometimes we don't realize what we're holding on to. So back to vulnerability. It's just a signal rather than an actual thing. It's just a signal that we need to realign. And when we realign, we're less susceptible to hurt. So take a couple moments here and just notice where in your body you might be feeling hurt or any tension or stiffness. And is there a way you could relate it to an emotional discomfort or stiffness? And today, rather than communicating to the narrative of why might I be feeling emotionally stiff, take advantage of the body and work on easing into a healthier posture. Because when we're hurt, we're hurting. But when we're feeling good promotes feeling good. So we can invite more good feelings into our experience just by realigning physically. And just try it as an experiment and see what happens. If you say, I'm going to try to be open today, and that is physically, I'm going to drop my shoulders, inhale softly, smile, and give my body permission to feel good. And for the ones of you that struggle with posture in general, or your feet, keeping them straight, right? It usually starts like with meditation. You start with 30 seconds, and then you build it to 1 minute, and then 5 minutes. But a great exercise practice for that can also be like the ball. There's like those really big balls that you could sit on. When you sit on one of those balls, it's really engaging for all the muscles. And sometimes it just takes some muscle strengthening. So I will leave you with that today. Thank you so much for showing up for yourselves and for everyone else here. Thank you for taking the time to improve the quality of your life and the quality of your emotional well-being. I'm Esther Levy, and this is a Core Kavana practice.